Welcome back, fellow armchairs and railway enthusiasts. This is Gamer1745 here with the new IKB. Say hi, IKB.
Hello, everybody.
And we are playing Railway Empire, of course, and this is the British DLC. So our current goal is to buy Don McLeod's company down here. We're currently in recording this near Christmas time, so all of the characters sort of have a Christmas theme to them that'll disappear sometime in January. And the secondary current goal is to move 50 loads of steel up to Newcastle. And we have a steel foundry here in Liverpool. We've got, and currently they're getting little or no coal or iron. And that is, I think, the goal now that we want to achieve first. And this is going to cause some disruption here. Okay, well, let's see if I can wait just a little bit here. Move the clock forward just a little bit. Let this train leave the station here. This probably be worse than I'm thinking, but let's see if we can do this. What I want to do is erase this station. We're going to see if we can just get rid of...
Are we sure we can't go out the end of it?
No, well, no, what I want to do is I want to do the one with signal links, and I think I can do that.
Right. Okay.
Just sort of as an upgrade here. I think we can do that. I think it'll fit. Not sure why we did or didn't do it last time, but you see we can just about get this guy right in here.
There we go. Gonna be a bit tight, but we'll manage.
Yeah. Okay. So let's... Not terribly great, but workable. Here we go. Okay. Now, there should be a few trains with... well, okay, those figuring it out. Good. Sometimes I've seen errors when I've switched stations like that. Okay, no, it seems to have figured out what it's supposed to be doing. Well, that's going to a different station, so that's not... Okay. We'll have to see if a car gets stuck somewhere because it may have an error. No. Okay, so that's good. Okay, that's what I wanted to do there. Now, we built this just purely as a get the bonus, and we haven't used that station. So we're going to get rid of it and get rid of the track that it was connected to. Can we? Yeah, it looks like we can. We're going to put in a station that connects both of these businesses. So we can get it to a flat enough piece of ground. There we go.
That's the eternal problem of building things in Wales, all hills.
Yeah, it is. I really like Wales, but it is difficult. You know, geography shapes humanity a lot. The only real reason Wales... Well, no, the only real reason the only real reason the Welsh exist is because of their mountains. Otherwise, they would have been erased like the rest of the Britons into being Anglo-Saxons. Okay, let's see. How does that look?
That doesn't look too bad. Very impressive bridge. Again, I wish it was a glorious Victorian brick arch viaduct because it would just look beautiful if it was, but...
Right, okay, let's see. If we come over here and let's lower this a little bit. It'll lower the grades. No, that's too far. Okay. That'll lower the grade some. Okay. And let's see if we come here. We're still dealing with early engines. If we just, okay, pop that up. Okay, it's now down to 6 degrees. They're fairly flat coming in here now. Okay. Here, let's see if we can raise this up. Okay, that gets that to 4 degrees.
That makes that 4, makes the next bit 0.
3, okay, so then we got 3. Now we have... And I've learned that coming in like this really sort of helps.
Yes, the fine picking over details of where the landscape folds and bends and how you're going to either bend with it or push it around to your will.
Right. Okay. That's looking fairly good. Excuse me. Okay, I'm sort of saving this other set branch off maybe to a warehouse here for Wrexham from whatever may come in from that side. And so this is that side to there. That looks pretty good, I would say. I like that. Okay, inexpensive bridges primarily, but the parallel track. A lot less expensive.
As if you've already built one half of the bridge, you can use that as extra leverage to build the rest of it.
Yep.
Making the bridge twice as wide doesn't necessarily mean that the bridge has to cost twice as much.
No. Okay. Before you remind me to, I'll put in maintenance station and wait signals before and clear signals after. All right. Okay, so that will get us to here. Oh, that's the other thing we have to do. Okay, and we may have to expand that out. This, because we erased that. Okay, they're bringing in apples, so this needs to accept apples. And
apples and fish, was it?
Flying kippers, yes. Okay, they're coming in. Good, so we want
fish. And give it a maintenance building would be a good idea.
Yeah, it would. Okay, so we have the fish. How are they doing for everything else? We could use milk coming in as well. So I think we're going to need to already expand this up to the larger size. Let's also put in a milk train. Do they call milk trains anything particular in Britain?
No, not particularly. Milk just seemed to be considered even though milk does, being a perishable good, needs to get places reasonably quickly. It never really got itself a fancy name.
Okay. And that really, the train is really the thing that makes milk in cities rather viable.
Yeah. It is very much the ability to move perishable goods within a, get them to market faster than they go off is the real miracle of the railway.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we want to add coal and
iron.
Okay, now we're coming out of more farm, but we're really doing whatever Sullivan Pit. So what we want to do is specify, because we're already accepting apples there, but we want to specify iron as the primary
cargo.
Yeah. Apples if you have nothing else to bring.
We need to head down towards the coalfields.
Yeah.
Which really should be further south around sort of north of Cardiff area.
Okay. Now, we've got,
Guess you probably get the wool at the same time, which is
yeah,
another thing that Wales is famous for, being full of sheep.
yes.
Less said about
Let's
that, the
see.
better.
Oh, they also like wool here, but they have plenty of wool. Don't know if we'll add it to this station because we're already getting, because obviously we can only go to 6 goods per station. So train station here, but we can, of course, send stuff in multiple directions. Let's see, can we do this? There we go. Okay, so now okay. Yeah. It's looking reasonably nice,
Looks
fairly flat.
reasonable, and this is Wales, so
Yeah.
for Wales, it's not too bad at all.
Right. Though we've stayed out of the mountains here to the north.
We've stayed out of Snowdonia,
Yeah.
and we haven't hit the Brecon Beacons in the south yet, so we're
Yep.
in the not quite so crazy hilly part of Wales.
Second link here. And so coming out of Farrell Farm, we're going to set up. Just if we ever, we're going to do coal here. Okay, so that'll get a train of coal, a train of iron coming up to Liverpool, which will be very useful. Now, we need to connect Liverpool to Newcastle.
Which is going to mean
We have some mountains here.
Yeah, the
What is this,
Pennines.
the Pennines? Yes, yes.
So that's going to be a yeah.
So we want to, I guess, come south of the Pennines here.
I could either go there, or is the spot in the middle where there's a bit of a pass.
That ain't much of a pass. That's just a tunnel.
You have to drive a tunnel,
Yeah.
which is what they eventually ended up doing when they decided to put a railway across the Pennines. They ended up having to make a very long tunnel.
Oh, cool. Because that is looking. Because either we can come sort of off of here. Let's just sort of quickly rough this out. Either come. Well, I don't know. Come here to here. That would be one way of doing it. That may be, yeah, I don't know. That's a decent way of doing it. The other would be is to come off of here, through here, come up like that, over like this, and over like that. South,
I think the one going to the south cost about 100,000 less. I was watching the.
Yeah. And I think it's about as direct, if not more direct, route. So, okay.
I think for now, at least, we'll go for the south, because it wasn't until much later on in the centuries that they managed to actually drive a railway across the Pennines.
Yeah.
And even then, some of the tunnels they ended up making were pretty much at the limit of how long of a tunnel you could have on a railway that's being operated by steam locomotives before you started to run into serious ventilation problems.
Right. Well, I've just a week or so ago finished watching. I binge watched. I'd seen a couple of the episodes when it first came out, but I just finished watching the series called Hell on Wheels. Have you ever seen that or heard of that, IKB?
I've heard of it, yes. I believe that's about building the transcontinental railway across America, isn't it?
Yes, and I think you would enjoy it. Hell on Wheels was the name given to sort of the mobile town that moved along near the railhead
Yes.
as they moved forward. Let's see if we can lower this just maybe a little bit here. Okay, that gets down to 5 degrees, but let's see if we can, well, because we start to go back down on the other side of this. There we go. Costing a bit for the cuts, but
cuts are always going to be cheaper than tunnels.
Right. And a bunch of the series is fictionalized. I think the main character never existed from my quick research. The the main leader or main president or whatever of the Union Pacific Railroad was highly fictionalized. I'm blanking on his name right now, but played by the guy from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Colin Meaney, or however you pronounce his name. The original guy does appear in Railway Empire, and he does have a beard, but not in the series. So it's as much of a Western as it is a railway thing.
Yes,
and
that's something that I think I will have to add to my watch list.
And yeah, it's 5 seasons long, but they're fairly short seasons, often just 10 episodes. And there are ways I'm sure you can get it without much difficulty. So you should put that on your watch list, and then we can talk about what you think of its history and its practical railway applications and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's as much of a Western as anything else. But okay, so that's going to be our Cross Britain Railway here connecting up. Okay, gets all of that. Let's do not enter left. So it's clear. Clear after sort of or wait back here points. Well, before we do that, let's come off from here. No, too much of hills. Maybe let's try from here.
Because there is a TV series that aired on ITV a little while back in 2016 called Jericho, which is a fictional. It's a heavily fictionalized account of the construction of the Ribblehead Viaduct on the Settle and Carlisle line, and
Okay.
it's they very much have tried to take the idea of a Western, as it were, and set it in the Yorkshire Dales.
Were there many gunfights in the series?
Not many gunfights. A lot of stabbings.
Okay.
It turned out to be the preferred method of dealing with people, and there are one or two characters who have at some point firearms, but they are either the sort of the landed gentry, if you would say, or those who work directly for the landed gentry, who have sort of been given their firearm by either the landed gentry or the railway company, who are, for all intents and purposes for the film, in many ways one and the same.
Right. Okay,
And
I will watch that.
It's a reasonably good, but I will warn you that there has been a fair bit of the old diversity and inclusion has been pushed on it a bit, and there are a few characters of let's just say not of native British descent who crop up in it, who, to the extent where I look and I go, yeah, that's highly unlikely to have happened.
Right. Now, just some personal commentary here. I know at least I've seen, a picture. They're filming another something, well, I don't know, TV, movie, something, series, TV, whether it's I presume it's for TV, but whether it's a TV movie or a TV series, and that has Anne Boleyn is one of the characters in it. One of the wives of
Anne Boleyn's black.
Right, and she's black.
Oh, good lordy.
And I don't have any objections to the idea that somebody wants to make that. I just have absolutely no desire to see it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like the play Hamilton, and I understand Hamilton himself. He was one of the American founding fathers. Was like born down in the Caribbean because, well, before America gets its independence, the colonies had a lot more flow of people between them than we might think afterwards. And the entire cast of Hamilton is black. And that's fine. I have no objection to that. But obviously that is racist because they didn't consider any white actors to play any of the roles. And so, and I'm not saying that they needed to. It's like if in Britain, you put on a Gilbert and Sullivan play, and all of the Asian actors are being played by Europeans, especially traditionally, as much as that there weren't, for the Mikado, there weren't a bunch of Asian actors that could come in and do Gilbert and Sullivan operettas and, pull that off. So I don't object to the idea that incorrect racial people are playing certain roles, especially if you were to go into Wales today and put on a Gilbert and the Mikado and put that on. They're probably going to be filled with Welsh people, which are all going to be, by the general term, white. And so, yeah, and if you were to go put on a Shakespeare play in Zimbabwe, they're probably all going to be black actors. I have absolutely no problem with that. But like I say, the Hamilton play, at least the main running of it on Broadway, was an entirely black cast. You can't tell me that there wasn't white actors capable of playing at least some of the roles. That, and I'm not, so yeah, it just, this new sort of newfangled racial diversity or lack thereof is really strange. And it's this really strange ideology that I just don't get. I just am not interested in seeing Anne Boleyn played by a black person because there's plenty of people that can play it right, and I like history, and I'm not trying to rewrite history where there are obviously black and Chinese people playing on Hell on Wheels, but there were black and Chinese, and they, I think, do a reasonable job to show the period racism without overly much preaching about it, because hell, there was racism back then, and that was definitely going on. So, I don't know what IKB.
I think maybe some of it is an attempt, no matter how misguided it may be, to try and make sort of history, call it period drama or what you will, appeal to the more shall we say inner city or such audience.
Right.
I think it's a bit of I think it's a case of that. It's someone's looked at the ratings, have seen that period dramas, the likes of Downton Abbey and such, don't do too well among X demographic, and have then decided, and have then thought, well, how can we make it more appealing to this demographic, and have then gone with, let's, for questionable reasons, change the ethnicity of certain characters for no other reason than to try and appeal to X demographic. My point on that is, to a certain extent, well, maybe it is just that X demographic just doesn't want to watch period dramas, and that's entirely fine, because if they don't want to watch them, that's their call. And if that means that there's not enough money for if that means that the BBC don't think they've got enough of an audience to make period dramas, then okay, that's the BBC's decision. I'm sure that there will be plenty of other production companies who will take up the slack and make period dramas.
Right, and that comes down. I watched a bit of Downton Abbey until I thought the main character died off, which to me was the Viewpoint character, and I like to learn about history through and not just history as in, and this is way history teachers and often fail, is trying to teach history as just simply a series of names, whether persons or place names, and dates. Battle of Hastings 1066, Battle of whatever, and King whoever, and without telling the social, political, other sorts of realities. And good historical fiction can really tell you a lot about history at that time period. And I don't mean just because some people, they want to tell the common man's story. Yeah, but just really, what was society like back then, which you can't get in history, or it can't get in now. When was the novel started? That's sort of debatable, because you can look back to the Iliad and the Odyssey, but the sort of modern novel, what is it? Sort of Jane Austen, or and there's stuff that definitely predating her, I know, but a lot of she is writing to an audience that understands what she's saying, because they share the common values. So it's sort of like, I know what it is to drive around LA. And so when I may talk about driving around LA, I may leave out a lot of stuff that you living in Britain wouldn't, I just presume you would understand. But if you came here and took the same sort of driving around, you might write it an entirely different experience, because you're explaining not necessarily the wonders as in the greatness, but the wonders as how is it different than what I'm used to driving around as, whether it's the way the cars behave or the way the city's laid out, whatever it might be. So because I see it through my eyes, I take a lot of, assumptions for for granted that people understand what's going on. So good historical fiction is done by people who truly understand the sociology, the way people, classes, regions, the way the structures of houses and whatever interact with it, and explain it to a modern audience. Because they understand how it differs. They're translating it. So I like that. Now, my two cousins, girls, they love Downton Abbey for the sort of social drama of the whole thing. And so we both talked about, or the three of us talked about the series, and I knew they would see it through different eyes than I see it through, but I was interested in it. And Fallows, or however you pronounce, the writer of it is actually a rather good historian, and starred in some of the Sharps TV series. So I know of him, and he's doing good historical fiction, if you will, with Downton Abbey. And so I know a bit about that series, and I can understand that a lot of people, inner city people in Britain, in America, just don't relate to it and just don't have an interest into it. And you'd have to literally pay them to want to watch it. And I don't think throwing at least in the American sense, throwing a black character, whether realistic or unrealistic to the time period, into Downton Abbey would get any more ratings in the American inner city types. I don't think that is at all the case. And so, yeah, I reasonably young. Do you know the TV series or book Shogun?
No, but I have heard of it. The various goings on around Japan.
Right. Now, it was a novel by James Clavell. I've actually read the novel as well as watched the series, and it sort of tells the Japanese, the sort of shogunate samurais, sort of from a viewpoint character of a British person basically being washed ashore into Japan. So it's sort of a way for outsiders, if you will, to explore. Yeah, explore and get things explained to them that they may not understand in Japan, and it's that. And maybe if you'd sat me down with the Seven Samurai or the Hidden Fortress or one of the other samurai movies, I might not have got a lot of it, might not have been interested in it. And so having a European character there as a major plot element, I would say definitely gets a lot of people into it. But I'm not looking to see more European characters in like any of the other, Akira Kurosawa's samurai movies. They're fine that they're all Japanese. I'm there to watch a samurai thing. I'm not there to see, the lone European or have half the cast European. I don't need that to identify with the hero of the movie. And this is me, and not anything I'm saying is just me, and IKB speaks for himself and any of you out there. So I don't see the need for it. And I would find a modern British Army drama without a few different racial groups within it as being odd, because, especially maybe even more so an American Army drama, is because there's black and there's Hispanic people throughout the American Army. But artificially to throw them into a World War II drama, which our Army was segregated at that point, would be off-putting to me, because it's not the way it was in World War II. And so now, I have this other, which I was sort of going IKB, I'm going to present something that is dangerous, what I'm going to say here. And if you wish to not comment, you say no comment. But I would like your opinion on something if you care to comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about identity. And it's about Britain. And it's about fear, I think. And it does sort of show up in the BBC. And it's about racial identity. Looking forward, and it has something to do with Brexit, but looking forward into the future, does a bunch of people, do groups of people, and I'm not talking about the sort of weird pockets of sort of semi-refugee populations in Britain. I'm talking about, that are fairly recent incomers. I'm talking about some that have been there quite some time, and I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before or something, but quite some time in Britain, that they fear, the ones that have been there, been born and raised in Britain, have mostly been enculturated into Britain. Again, not the groups that are sort of standing apart from everybody else. Do they fear the English, Scottish, Welsh identities because their identity is Britain and they're not English, they're not Welsh, they're not Scots? Do they fear a future because they're not one of them? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, and well, from my very limited experience and a sample size more or less of one being a particular close friend of mine who is of, let's just say that her ancestors hail from the Indian subcontinent.
Okay. I
can tell you now, she probably doesn't even concern herself with such things, to be honest, because she's more worried about the day-to-day of, keeping the lights on, paying the rent and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Because I just sort of, from the outside watching some of the, different news people that fear, like Tommy Robinson and other English identitarians, if you will, that they, and with Brexit, they feel that they don't have a similar identity. And maybe it's just because an American doesn't have that problem, because our identity is different. I'm Anglo-Scots ancestry. So, but that doesn't make me any more or less American. And so I don't have that. But because I hear a lot of people, we're British. And when they sort of banned the St. George's Cross flag because it's racist, I have to wonder, that's sort of what made me start thinking this. And so the Union Jack is fine, but the English flag is not, because they are not English. But I don't know. I don't know if it's on their conscious level or what they're thinking of.
I can say for certain that the local church I used to go to as I grew up, as far as I still know, still has a flagpole outside that still flies the cross of St. George.
Yeah, and it was on. I remember this was recently within the last 2 years on St. George's Day. It was either like Facebook or whatever was flagging posts that had the St. George's Cross flag on it, and then it was it's St. George's Day, because they thought it was a bunch of English identitarians that were, or otherwise known as racists, were promoting this as a hate symbol. So yeah, I don't know. I just looking sort of forward in Britain, I just don't know how that's all going to be handled, and so what I'm trying to, what's getting me is, and I know this is very off topic from Railway Empire, is having a black woman play Anne Boleyn. Is this trying to going to say, hey, these people are also English or whatever, or trying to change things in that way? Is there that sort of motivation of what is going on? I don't know. That just, it's come to mind. But it's a dangerous thought, I know. But then I guess I like to live dangerously. And I'm not trying to suggest for you listeners or anybody else that I have a particularly strong opinion on any of these things. I'm just wondering if this is some of their fears that they're having. A lack of, because, Jeremy Paxton, of course, IKB knows of him, I presume. You do, I presume? TV presenter?
I think you presume a little too much. I don't watch that much TV.
Okay. Probably out of date, older TV presenter. And he did a series, and it's probably someone young like IKB, seems sort of old, but I think less than 10 years old. And he looked at sort of the legacy of the British Empire. Was it a good thing or was it a bad thing? And very interesting show, I found. And you got some, say, Indian families, some I think maybe West Indian, but definitely Indian families that were part of the empire expanding outside of India, that when the British Empire in those regions were collapsing, they moved to Britain. And they're like, yeah, the British Empire was great. We loved it. It was a wonderful thing. Where, of course, if you get others, especially my friend Azads, who's Indian, oh, the British Empire is a terrible thing and whatnot. And so these people's identity of being British Indians is solid, and they like it, and they thought it's good. And it just, how people see identity is something that's fascinating to me. And again, when I was living up in Scotland many years ago and dealing with a lot of cultural groups, one cultural group definitely had an Indian woman that identified as Scottish, and she was entirely accepted in the group. And she was Scottish. She spoke with a Scottish accent. She was Scottish. It was just Scottish to her, and her genetics was unimportant to her. Her identity was Scots. And this is, people want to, I think, overly make race an identity, but I don't know that you can ever get away from it, but it just make it overly important or something. I don't know. Okay, well, off dangerous topics maybe for the moment, but back to railways. All right, so we can, of course, and we will be connecting
directly Carlisle and Newcastle, I assume, at some point.
Yes, coming around north of the Pennines here, but I figure we can get a car, because I'm just trying to scope this out, of Carlisle to Middlesbrough, and whether we go on to Hull at any point, I don't know. And so we have that. Looks, I think, like a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
But Jericho, I do want to check out. I like British dramas. I probably like other nations' dramas too. Babylon Berlin, especially the first, and I know they're working on more of it. The first season I loved, and it's just German subtitled, and I can deal with subtitles, but it's obviously easier things in English, so I watch more English than other historical dramas. Good ones, things that I truly think present history well. It can be with fictional characters, but presenting the time well, I love, because I love to learn from them. All right. Okay, so we've got a lot of new connections made here. So what we're going to do, let's pause this.
Have we made sure we've got water towers everywhere?
Yeah, we'll have to do that in a moment.
Especially because from Newcastle across to anywhere is going to be a long way.
I want to get some of the trains rolling. Coming up from down here in Hull. Liverpool and Manchester award worthy. Okay.
That's good.
Things are flowing. Let's flow, like you said. Let's make sure. Let's put it in here. That way it's a good break.
And I think we're going to need some between Newcastle and coming across as well. We're definitely going to need,
yeah,
I'd say at least two, one by the river and one in the middle of the triangle.
Yeah, that will also look good. Okay. Okay, so the trains will come up through there. We've got multiple stops coming along there. That's good. Okay, so again, to everybody, we are trying to grow our general profits while moving as much steel eventually up to Newcastle. Let's copy this train. Okay, too much apples maybe, but let's copy this train. These mines will grow as we start to buy resources from them. Liverpool. They could use wheat pretty badly.
Wasn't there some just a little way into Wales?
Yes, there is. And we can add that station, and we have one more slot up at the warehouse. So let's see what we can do here.
Now, of course, being in Wales and having connected to the coal mines there, that means that that means that I've now got an excuse to have a little bit of a talk about Welsh coal.
Okay. Hold on. Why don't we save that for just a moment? We're going to end this episode here, and we're going to start up the next episode. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Say goodbye, IKB.
Goodbye, everybody.
And so thank you for watching. We'll be back more with soon with more Railway Empire.